Yet we don't want to really acknowledge that. We apologize for our tears, our feelings. We don't want to be seen as someone who is emotional or sensitive. And we certainly don't want to burden anyone with our feelings. Hi, welcome back to the channel. My name is Vicky. Today I want to talk about grief. I think we should all grieve more. Collectively, I think we need to grieve more and acknowledge the grief. Because in North America, grief is not really a socially acceptable feeling. Sadness certainly is not. And I really like the movie Inside Out because it tells us that our feelings all have a function. They're all there inside us and they're all there to serve a purpose. Like sadness isn't just, being sad or mopey all the time.
Oh, we just fell down. We should cry.
Sadness, no!
We love to feel happy, but we can't seem to acknowledge that feelings like sadness, even jealousy, anger, all these yucky feelings serve a function. They're our body's way of telling us, hey, there is something wrong. We don't like it. And they're useful. They're all a part of us. They're a natural emotional response to things. But we can't seem to really settle with that, at least not in North America. Like even the default answer to how you doing is always good, I'm good. How about you?
Okay, how about we stop being sad and, hey, look at this!
I'm doing the happy dance.
I'm not wearing any pants, something friends, I'm doing the happy dance, hey!
In North America, I think there's this culture of not acknowledging grief unless it is the loss of a pet, loved ones, and maybe sometimes if you're going through a breakup. Even in the corporate world, you're only allowed 2 days of bereavement before you're expected to carry on like normal as if nothing has really happened. We don't really want to talk about it. We don't really want to talk about feelings other than good, happy, because it feels like it's not a socially accepted feeling to have. So instead of acknowledging these feelings, we pack it up, we bottle it up, we ship it away, and we can't acknowledge it. We numb it. We just pave over it. And there's also no time to deal with these feelings either. In this North American achievement society where, your measure of worth is based on your achievement and what you do instead of who you are and how you're being, there is no time to sit down with our feelings and process them. There is no time. So instead, we pretend we're fine. We look for the next thing to distract us. We say things like, if I work out and I become fit, then it'll be fine. I just need to do these things, wake up earlier, drink my iced matcha lattes, and then I'll be fine. But that's not really the way to deal with our feelings or grief. And instead, we apologize for them. We don't want to be seen as being too sensitive, especially for women. I think, especially in North American, where we only have to think about Hillary Clinton to think about how many times has the phrase, oh, well, we can't have a woman be a president. She'd be way too emotional, being thrown around. The word emotional seems to be a derogatory term in North American culture, when emotions are a natural part of us. They are a natural part of living as a human being. Yet we don't want to really acknowledge that. We apologize for our tears, our feelings. We don't want to be seen as someone who is emotional or sensitive. And we certainly don't want to burden anyone with our feelings. But even outside of the big losses, like loss of a parent, loss of a child, loss of your spouse, loss of pets, even outside of these socially acceptable big losses, there is so much grief and loss. We can't go through life without there being loss. The loss of innocence and naivety, the loss of a world you thought you once had, the world that you thought you would grow old into. The loss of that, the loss of employment, of friendships. If you've ever had to pack up your life and move away somewhere else, the loss of place, the loss of memory, the loss of something you thought you once were going to have, a life milestone, but you couldn't achieve that. Abandonment, infertility, and even the loss of a phase of life that you once felt secure. There is so much loss all around us, just unacknowledged. I could go on and on and on, and I'm sure you have many examples of your own that you can write about, that brings up to mind in terms of loss. And sometimes grief and joy can exist at the same place. Have you ever had the experience of being at your best friend's wedding, yet feeling sad because you don't have someone to be with? And especially as a parent, seeing my child grow up and knowing that while I welcome the new iteration of my child, knowing that the previous iteration is gone forever. I mean, which parent hasn't wanted to dial back time and just to hold their child as like a little baby yet again, one more time? And all of these losses perhaps don't cut quite as deeply as, let's say, the loss of a parent, but it nevertheless changes us. It nevertheless leaves an indelible mark on our psyche. It changes us forever. Grief isn't just tied to the death or the loss of a loved one. It is a natural emotional response that comes with loss, any loss. It is the gap between what you had expected and what is reality. And it is an emotional response to loss that has altered our sense of reality, has altered our sense of identity or future. The loss of an identity, the loss of a future are profound losses as well that shakes us to our core, and we have to say goodbye to what we thought we were going to have. And that is a loss and grief as well. And why do I feel like we're in a time of collective grief? Well, look around us. I think as a millennial, we were the generation that was promised so much. We were coming of age when the internet started, and there were so many happy memories of and so much optimism about what the internet could bring. Like finally we could have people all over the world be connected. We can speak to someone else across the globe and understand how their life is. What a miraculous thing that is. And there's so much optimism and hope surrounding education, surrounding that now that we can get to know one another better, that it's going to make the world a better place. And then the smartphones came around, and there was, like the 2007 to 2010 was just a time of collective hope and optimism. And then the financial market crashed, and of course, I don't want to say that the sense of optimism was felt by everyone, because there were certainly a lot of people who felt very left behind, and people whose jobs were lost because of globalization. They did not feel the sense of optimism, and so I don't want to bypass that. All I'm saying is that for the millennial generation, the ones who grew up in the late 1980s, 90s, and the 2000s, there was so much that technology has promised us, and that we thought we were on the right path, because Obama came around, and the hope and optimism, and people thinking, oh my gosh, maybe this will bring about an end to bigotry, racism, etc. But since then, we've experienced the first downward mobility of the middle class, and even some of the upper middle class. We're the first generation to experience that. And the degree doesn't mean as much as it used to either. And so yet again, we were promised, we were told, if you do these things, if you do the right things, if you get the right degrees, if you get the right job, you will have a great life. You'll be set for life. But as we can now see, that isn't exactly what panned out. For the first time, people of our generation or the generation after us are finding it harder and harder to survive, and we are seeing a great social decline. And then comes Trump 1.0, and then COVID. And, even at the beginning of COVID, there was a sense of we're all in this together, which was very quickly replaced by the shock of seeing the human condition, the selfishness of the human condition, and how everyone will pay lip services to, oh, we're all in this together. But when push comes to shove, people will overwhelmingly choose their own self-interest, and that's really shocking. I think that was the first big shock. The first big disillusionment that we as a collective went through, the disappointment. How many of us have lost friends over COVID? And the spread of misinformation and feeling like we're just screaming into a void. The information technology that promised so much now turned against us, because the same thing that connected everyone across the globe was the same thing that spread misinformation. And I don't know about everyone. I certainly felt like I was screaming into a void, trying to reason with people who couldn't be reasoned against this tsunami of misinformation and the helplessness. And I don't think we've even fully processed the trauma of COVID. I think while we're still catching our breath, trying to find some normalcy, struggling to come to terms with those lost years, then comes Trump 2.0. And oh my gosh, are we living through a time of history or what? There's this feeling that our collective sense of reality is disintegrating before our eyes, that the world that we thought we had grown up in, the world that we thought we would grow old in, completely out the window. And I feel like we still haven't really fully processed the shock yet. I think we're still bracing. I think we're still in this place where we don't actually know the depth of what is going to unfold. And so we're just bracing for the impact. It's like a tsunami. It's just like one wave after another. And we haven't even seen the end of it. We're not at a place where we could actually look around and say, okay, what has happened? What is left over here? What are the pieces we need to pick up? And how do we rebuild from here? We're not even at that place yet. But it's important that we know that this is what's happening. It is important because then maybe we can start to move forward one day, hopefully soon. We are right now in this time of collective grief, and this time where technology and AI and they're working further to divide us, to strip us of our groundedness, our sense of being connected to reality, and our sense of community. And we're glued to our phones, hoping for some dopamine hit, hoping for some numbness, hoping for some distraction, so you're not thinking about this. And we haven't yet acknowledged the depth of our losses yet, because we haven't even started to see the depth of our loss yet. And we haven't started the healing journey yet, but I hope we will as a community soon. And grief is often at the root of what's going wrong with our lives. So workaholism, alcoholism, approval-seeking behaviors, these are all tied to unprocessed grief because we carry it around with us. Unprocessed grief is stored in the body. The body keeps a score. It influences every aspect of our lives. And, I think this is why people want closure when something traumatic has happened, because they want to at least be able to close the door. And then from that point onward, they can stop looking into the past, into what had happened, and instead can look into the future after they have been able to say, okay, this is done. I can now name the loss, process it, weep, get through this grief, and then, we can move forward with our lives. And unprocessed, often unrealized grief is in the way of us being able to look towards the future and move into the future. So often people are clinging to the past, clinging to a version of the past that's already gone. And they're hoping that perhaps someday they'll be proven right, that what was there will come back, instead of being able to step into the future, being able to accept that the fact that is that those things are gone, be able to accept that, and then move through the grief and emerge on the other side and being able to go towards a future. And this unprocessed grief envelops us. It manifests in places we don't expect. It manifests in physical symptoms like fatigue, brain fog, forgetfulness. It manifests in aches and pains. I often store my tension and grief around here in my chest and in my shoulders. And so this is why we have to listen to our bodies and listen to what it's telling us, either in the form of feelings or like tension in the body. And so for myself, I often find that when I have things I haven't processed, my breathing becomes very shallow. It's like I'm still bracing for an impact that's yet to come. And my breathing is shallow. I hold my breath. I'm not breathing diaphragmatically. And my pelvic floor is tense and my shoulder is tense. And so this is my body's way of telling me there are things I need to deal with. And, often I will massage it, give it thanks, say, thank you so much for carrying this burden, for carrying this on you so that we can keep on surviving, we can go through another day. Thank you, I got it. And of course, everyone will look, however you process this or however it shows up in your body will be different. But I think it's really important to live within our body, to be fully attuned to what our body is telling us. And I think because we're going through this collective period of grief, I think we need to ritualize grief more. Ritualize dealing with it, ritualize how we go about it, because you can't go through life without experiencing these losses. You can't go through life without these layers of grief that's stacked upon one another. And grief is cumulative and it takes its toll. Everyone has a breaking point. I have my ways of ritualizing my grief. I start with naming it. I name my loss, and that gives it power, that gives it real, and it reminds you that there is a reason for you to feel sad. As an aside, I feel like in this North American culture in which we have made feeling sad so taboo, instead of naming all of our grief and seeing it as legitimate reasons for us to feel sad, we instead then turn to pharmaceuticals. And I'm not blaming I think they're great. There are great drugs that have saved millions of lives. I used to be a pharmacist. I counsel people on this all the time. I used to tell my patients that this is to help you get through this rough period in your time, for you to go and seek counseling, seek therapy, seek other ways to help you through. It's not meant for you to be on this forever. And I was on antidepressant for a while as well. And so I'm not demonizing pharmaceuticals, not at all. But I think it is worth saying that a lot of times we take our feelings of sadness, numbness to very legitimate real life situations, and we say, there must be something wrong with me because I feel these ways. And I must be depressed. I must be, I must do something about it. Instead of being able to name these losses for what it is and say, I suffered a loss in identity or loss in unemployment. And yeah, I feel like crap because of it. I feel sad. I feel discarded. I feel all of these things. And it's legitimate for me to feel these things. It's legitimate for me to grieve what I once had. So, but we don't have a culture of doing that in North America. So instead, we turned to the pharmaceuticals, Or if you're like me, I tell my therapist, I'm like, give me a 10-step program to get through this. I don't want to sit in this, Mark. Okay, sure. Yes, I know my feelings are legitimate, but can we like deal with them so I can move on? If you're type A like me, you would do that. Yeah, so I first start with naming my grief and naming what I had lost and legitimizing my feelings. And then the second step I do is I make space for it. I will set aside some time to deal with it. It might be a helpful exercise for people to visualize a safe space to contain your emotions until you have a time in which you can deal with them. I like to visualize, and it's going to be different for everyone. Some people think of like a lockbox, some people think of a safe. I visualize mine as bright bubbles, each that contains emotions. Each bubble contains my emotions, and I think of these bubbles being the safe, magical place for my emotions to be at until I can deal with them at another time. But I do set aside time for that. And the way I process is through writing. I write about it. I journal throughout the day, and I will write endlessly about it. I write letters, I write memorials for it, I write anything and everything about my feelings until it has dissipated. But another thing that I deal with my grief that comes up is anger and frustration. So often I will find the urge to want to scream in my car. And somehow my neighbors haven't called the police on me yet. But that's another way that I deal with grief. My body tells me we really feel like this sense of anger and frustration, and we must be released. And so I go to my car and I scream in there. It's going to be different for everyone because grief comes up and it's processed in different ways, and you should have no judgment about it. And then another step I do is I listen to my body. I ask it, what's going on? Where are you tense? Where are you holding on to things? Where is this sore? I'll give it a little massage. I'll tell it that we're okay. We're in a safe space now. We can let go. I would say thank you so much for hanging on, for holding, for literally shouldering all of this pressure, all of this sadness in here until we're at this point that we can deal with it. So thank you so much. It's time to let go. That's what I say to my body. You might find other ways of telling your body that it's in a safe place and it can let go. And then an optional step is to communicate with your friends or community. Not everyone is comfortable with that, and that's totally okay. But if you are comfortable with it, finding support, finding this shared sense of community and someone to hold this space for you to grieve with you is a really helpful thing. And finally, accept the messiness. It's going to look different. It's going to look different for everyone. It's going to come up in unexpected ways. Of course, seek professional help if you need to. My therapist is a godsend. I cry so much with her. And we deal with so many things in my life together. So if you've been listening to me spiel on for all this time, thank you so much. I hope that in this period of collective grief, we can all come together and collectively heal at some point, because it is within community, within our shared sense of reality, groundedness, being in touch with other people, being in touch and being able to hold space for one another's feelings and say, yes, it is valid. You are seeing, I see you. I see you and accept your feelings as being valid. It is in those moments that we can then heal, process, move on together. And as always, thank you so much for listening. If you've enjoyed the content of this video, please give me a like and a subscribe, or leave a comment. Tell me what your thoughts are about this video. Thank you and have a great day.